Good.
Okay.
All right. First up, this is a straggler because we didn't
It
get
is
a
a
chance
straggler.
to take a photo of it last night because it
We
came in late.
Yeah, it actually came in late. It was really weird. It came in a different package for some reason,
Okay.
so it didn't
So
come in. So we got.
glowing neon light.
Maybe you
Looks
missed
like
last
neon.
week. Who knows? So we now have these neon flexi strips in red. So what's cool about them is they're not really neon. They're actually LEDs, and they're molded into silicone. So they have this really beautiful neon effect, and they're nice and skinny, and they're incredibly bendable. And you can sort of see the LEDs. There's like 130 LEDs per meter or something, and you can cut these. And if you don't mind digging into the silicone, you can solder some more into them. They're not addressable. You get, it's basically the whole thing is on or the whole thing's off. You can PWM it if you want to dim it. Just give it 9 to 12 volts, and it lights up. So these are great for because they're so weatherproof. They're silicone, so they're good for projects that are going to go outdoors. Projects where you want nice diffuse lighting. We have them in all the other colors. I think we sold out. We're going to be getting more, but right now we just put in some red. So if you want a bright red neon flexi, check it out. It's in the store.
Okie dokie. Next up, we have these standoffs that you may recognize
Very
from
familiar.
Circuit Playground. So,
Yep.
standoff screws, size of them.
Yeah, these were coming soon, and we put them in Adabox 8, and then because we've completely finished all Adabox 8s, we have a bunch left over, and we'll be stocking these in general. I can show them off really fast. If you buy a Cricut, it comes with the standoffs already. There's these parts here, but maybe you're making your own custom board, or maybe you want to attach a Gemma or a Flora or a Circuit Playground Express or a Microbit to something else. They fit really well, and we use them for both electrical and mechanical connections. So data and power goes over them, as well as just actually holding it physically to the board. And then, this is what you get. So you get these nice brass standoffs. They are M3 screws, and you get some Phillips head screws as well. So very handy, good if you want to make your own biscuit, as David Stells likes to call them, or other custom circuit board.
No, how come the screws don't have to be brass? Why does it not matter?
I was actually wondering, I think standoffs, because they have to be machined a certain way, it's easiest to make them out of a soft material like brass or aluminum. It's very rare to see stainless steel screws, where screws are often stainless steel. Because they have to be nice and strong, but it works quite well, and they don't oxidize or anything. They're
Okay.
And then the pads, of course, on the Circuit Playground are gold, so now you get 3 different materials.
All right. So we have a couple of these. There's 2 different ones. But,
Yeah. And these have been something that we have been asked about. So let me let me just
People
let
have
my
asked
demo.
a lot about this.
These are PoE modules. So we have a PoE splitter in the store, but when the Raspberry Pi 3 came out, the B+, we're like, oh shoot, we should pick up these modules. These are standardized modules, and we have 2 kinds. We have one that's non-isolated, and that's this one, and we have one that's isolated, which is the next one. And you can tell it's isolated because in this next photo, you see how there's this big chunky thing? That's a transformer. Both give you 5-volt regulated out if you give it the 4 PoE center tap connections. The regulated one, the non-isolated one is about 1.5 amps. The isolated one is about 1.8 amps. You can always go a little bit over, but basically it's 1.5 to 2 amps. And then here's a demo. I've got let me back this out because this is a big demo. So you got a TP-Link. I got a PoE hub here, and you can see it says PoE. So this is powered from a wall plug, and then on the other end of the Ethernet, which is a nice long Ethernet cord, we have the Raspberry Pi 3B+. Now you have to have the 3B+. This won't work with the 2 or the B or the 0, because you need to connect to these 4 pins here. See these 4 pins? I can't unplug them because it would turn off. But those are the center taps for the Ethernet. And then you plug them into the module. So this is the isolated module here. And then on the other side of the module, you get power and ground, and you plug that into the GPIO headers. And note that there's no power plug here. It's completely powered off of this Ethernet cable. So this is really great if you want to minimize your power. Now you're probably wondering, what says USB and HDMI? Well, just going to show you can power a screen from it as well. So you can have a screen, a touch screen, a Raspberry Pi 3 B+, and you have a little bit more power budget as well. The Raspberry Pi 3 draws about 700 milliamps when you're really running it, and maybe the screen's under 500. So as long as you keep under 1.5 amps, which you should be able to, you can basically power it off of Ethernet.
I'll tell you where this will be the most handy. So we're in New York, and there's tons and tons of like interactive displays. There's a ton of exhibits. There's tons of things, and sometimes they use a Raspberry Pi, and there's just like tons and tons of cables.
Yeah.
This
Less cabling.
This would be one of those times. It's like, oh, when would you use power over Ethernet? It's like, well, when you want to minimize the amount of cabling you need to do, especially for, let's say if you had 50 of these. I don't really have 50 power supplies.
Yeah, you have to have 50 power supplies, and it just, that gives you another place that something will go wrong. And the micro USB connector, like, it's good, but it's not going to be as strong. I mean, these Ethernet connectors, because they have the clippy, they don't come out, whereas the micro USB, you can pull them. These, you actually have to, you have to flick the cable, and if you have a boot, it's protected. So this is more durable, and also means you get both data and power. Great for Internet of Things projects. Ethernet works great. And yeah, we have two versions of the module. The isolated one is a little bit more expensive. It's higher current. If you want isolated power and data, then go for that. If you don't need that, then the lower cost non-isolated one, it will work just fine. Both of them work great with the Raspberry Pi 3B+. And then later on, when the Pi Foundation releases their hat, that'll be like a full 2.5 amp major thing. But this, if you don't mind doing some wiring, you can get started now. And there's a couple other products out there that often take PoE modules. I know the old Arduino Ethernet did as well. There was sockets for it. If you have a product that has sockets for a PoE module, this is a standard PoE module, and it will almost certainly fit. Everyone sort of decided this is the pinout shape.
Okay.
So this is the PoE demo.
Speaking of wires.
Great. More wires. Okay, so you have micro switches or arcade buttons. You want to connect to them really easily. You don't want to solder. These quick connects will be your best friend. This is great for installations or if you're making an arcade setup. Let me grab them as well. And we have two sizes. They look very similar.
Okay,
but
so I showed the first one. Want to show the second one?
You can't tell the difference until you look at the close-up. So I'm gonna do some close-up demo action so people can see the difference. One is 1.87. Yeah, that end is the same. It's about 2.5 millimeters at that end, and then the other end. But I'll show it on the overhead. Yeah. It's tough because they look similar. One's, I think, 2.5 or 0.25, and one's 1.9.
Yeah, this is stuff. It's like, okay, this,
that.
Well, this.
Let me show it on the overhead. I think I can demo it. So some switches that we have, like this big wire micro switch, has these really large 1/4-inch lugs on them. Let me zoom in. So this will fit great there. So you see this is just slides right on, and you've got a nice solid connection. It will fit quite well. You can also, of course, solder it or crimp it again. We also have this smaller one, and note it like won't, it kind of sort of fits, but it's a tight fit. So we have both kinds. And then on this, which is another kind of micro switch, again, you can use this one on this switch, and this one on this switch, and then for this, you'll want to use the big one. So you'll have to measure connecting your switches. It's kind of hard to tell. This one I can just say, like, oh, it looks chunky, so it's probably the bigger one. But you can use calipers or a ruler and measure it, and then pick the matching one. And then what's nice is, for example, this micro switch that also has an LED built into it. On the other end, you get these JST XH, which are 2.5 millimeters, and they're close enough to 0.1 inch that you can basically use them in a breadboard. You just have some wires, or if you're using header, you can use header to connect them, or just plug in some wires into this and then lead them off to wherever you want. It makes it a lot easier to connect to these sort of quick connect spades. So there you go. We got now 3 sizes. These two in addition to the current one, the older one we have.
Okay.
Yep.
Next up.
We have 100 pack of these cute plastic rivets. We showed these off. We had a pack of 20.
This is what you're going to do with it.
This is what you're going to do with it. It's great for when you have cardboard and you want to attach it, but you don't want to like staple or glue.
Yeah.
You just poke a hole with a pen and snap the two pieces together, and they just rivet together. Super easy, and now they come in a pack of 100.
Yeah.
Show
Do
them
you
off.
want to show?
Yeah, sorry. There's so many demos I have to close off. So you just get jam packed. This is great for workshops or something, but yeah, you get two
Yep.
pieces. And you can see one has a little nub and one has a little space. And they're meant actually for fabric or paper, but we use them for cardboard. You just
Yep.
snap them in.
Perfect for cardboard.
And what's nice is they have that nice big gap you can see
Yep.
here. So two pieces of cardboard work quite well. And we're going to get some more size rivets as well, because people have been asking for more rivets.
Okay. Next up.
Okay, so this is an update to these Wago blocks. These are snap-on blocks that you get a pack of 3, and all 5 get basically connected together. And one second. You can show on the overhead. So these have little snap on things here, and they basically make a permanent connection without you having to do any soldering. So you have a piece of wire that's stripped, and you put it in, and you snap it closed, and it's like
That's
permanent.
good.
So great for when you want to have like a bus. You want to connect like a power connection. All 5 of these have to be connected together. You don't have to use all 5. You can use 3 if you want. But it keeps you from doing like the twisting and then using a wire nut. Kind of ugly, not so much fun. This is nice and clear. You can see through, so you can see all your wire connections. This is an update. We carried these before, and this is a slimmer, transparenter, I think a nicer quality one. Wago updated this. So people who do wiring projects, like, use these. I mean, like, this is way better than twisting wires and soldering them.
Okay.
Higher current too. It's like 40 amps.
Yeah, someone's going to ask that. Thanks. Okay. Next up.
Oh, we got these backpacks. So if you have seen in the shop, we carry backpacks with, the LEDs, like 8x8 matrix LEDs, and you put a backpack on the back, and so it's much easier to wire. You only use I2C to connect to it. And people have been asking us to just sell the backpacks. We have the 8x8 backpack, and then we also have the 1.2-inch backpack. We sell the LEDs in the store. If you go with other LEDs, they may not be wired correctly. Like, they have to be wired exactly the way that the ones we have in the shop are. And if you get the wrong anode or cathode type, you're going to be very sad. So we just got to warn you about that. We only guarantee them to work with the ones in the shop, and I'll just show on the overhead real fast. This is the 1.2-inch backpack, so it's kind of a gigantic PCB, and you can short these jumpers to have up to 8 on different I2C addresses. This is the 8x8. We have a couple of different colors in round and square pixels, so you will get these without the LEDs, and you can solder LEDs. We also, of course, carry them with the LEDs, so this is for DIYers.
All right. And then tonight's Stars Show, besides you and our community lady, Ada, I put this in because I thought these were neat.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. Hold on, let me grab my 9-volt plug. So these are interesting because of they're NeoPixels, but they're UV NeoPixels. So each one of those little segments has a WS2811, which is a NeoPixel compatible chip, and a triple output UV LED. So you see here, it's just running the basic strand test for NeoPixels. Now they're all basically the same color because it's just UV. This would be interesting for doing like an event or costume where you have some fluorescing material and you want it to fluoresce. So it looks kind of weird because it's purple, but it's UV LED. Now it's not going to be like the strongest possible UV. It's not going to be like a UV blacklight, which is going to be incredibly powerful. But if you have some fluorescent material like this, you can see it does fluoresce with it.
Yeah.
So it's addressable. Right now I just have them all on so I can sort of show this demo. But you can see it does pick up, fluorescent items will pick up on it. So if you have a plastic that shows up particularly well under UV, this would be a good match. But I just thought it was kind of interesting to get, instead of RGB pixels, get UV pixels. So
Yep.
an interesting thing, works with anything that does NeoPixel code, this will work with. Just remember that RGB is just UV, so you can't you're not going to get green.
Yeah, there's probably this is one of those cool products where someone's going to do something cool with it. There's probably some type of instrumentation or some chemical process or something where it'd be really neat to have addressable UV.
Yeah.
And we'll hear about it later. We'll see it on the show and tell. We'll do a blog post about it.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
it'll be a big deal.
this is definitely something interesting and weird. So I thought, yeah, let's get it. I had a couple of people ask me a while ago. They wanted to do costumes and they wanted to have the
Yeah.
LEDs, be able to turn on. Like it was a helmet that had UV strands coming out of it, and they wanted it to have a forward and back effect. And they were like hand soldering UV LEDs. So
Yeah.
this way, it's done for you.
Okay.
Okay, so UV NeoPixels.
And with that, Lady Ada is new parts.
Whew, that was a lot. Okay.